Hello, everyone. Welcome to Horizons by AUTMHQ. My name is Isa. I am the program director of AUTMHQ for our workforce development team. And we are excited to have another series regarding Horizons and those who have extended through the tech industry. And so um, during these conversations, we like to, as you know, highlight the fact that these are the times where we're able to really bridge that gap between those who are in the tech space and those who want to be in the tech space, excuse me, by providing you with faces and names of people that look like you and that have had similar experiences. As we know that in the tech industry, the Black and Hispanic community is not well represented. So in order to like I said, bridge that gap, want to make sure that you can see yourself in these spaces and be that much more encouraged in order to make the strides to join the tech industry yourself. So during these conversations, a lot of especially our automites out there, you're familiar with the data life conversations, the cohort series. Well, now we're going to be focused on Horizons. And like I said, during Horizons, we are going through somebody's career, their tenure, their career, to see what really got them going, what jobs, what was their experience, what was their first job like, how did they even like join the tech industry, because that can be a very versatile journey as well. So in terms of really exposing you to these individuals, as we always say, and we probably say it more than enough, but it is advantageous for you to use these times to meet directly and have conversations with these individuals in tech. And not only are you going to be able to converse with them here, through the comments and conversations that we're going to have, but you're also going to be able to reach out to them directly, via LinkedIn, via email, however they prefer to be reached out to. And so we want to use this time to go ahead and start getting to know these people, because we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to go ahead and expand your network and learn more about somebody's experience in tech and how that might relate to what you would like it to look like and for your experience. And so, without further ado, I definitely wanted to introduce Stenio Ferreira. He is our guest speaker today. As you saw on the beginning screen, and you probably saw on the invitation from Eventbrite, he does work at Google, but Stenio is more than just Google. He has some experiences he would like to share as well as to how he has ended up at Google so far. But I would like to introduce Stenio.
Thank you, Isa. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully, I'll be able to share my journey so far. And hopefully, I can inspire or like give some tips to help you in your journey in tech. So I guess you can move to the next slide and I can talk about my current position. So when we talk about Google, you might be aware that there's this big company called Alphabet, and within Alphabet, there's all the different subsidiaries. So you're going to have the Google Search, you're going to have Google Ads, the analytics. Google Cloud is one of them, and there's a bunch of others. I work for Google Cloud. And Google Cloud is a cloud platform. So whenever companies like large retailers or large manufacturers, they need servers and they need databases, instead of buying the physical hardware and keeping their data centers, now they can use virtualized versions that Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and a few others offers. So that's what Google Cloud is about. And in Google Cloud, my current position is customer engineer. So what that means is that I'm assigned a few accounts and I'm in the sales organization. So my metrics is based on how much these accounts consume of the Google Cloud resources. And I might have to do like PowerPoint presentations and hey, like these are great latest new technologies, but I also work with existing customers. So I understand their workloads, like what they're trying to achieve, like they need to translate documents or they need to track database and stuff like that. And using my technology experience, hopefully, I'm able to help their teams to see which kind of Google Cloud services would be a good fit for their needs. So that's my current day job. Besides that, in Google, there's this great program called the 20%, where you have a chance to work with different teams inside of the organization. And I enjoy my day job, but currently I work with more legacy organizations, so large hardware manufacturers. And my background throughout my career, I was exposed to a more entrepreneurial environment. So I really like working with startups, like this dynamic movement. And in the future, I might go back there. So within Google, I found an opportunity to work with a group called Google for Startups, where in this position I help this group build relationships with venture capital and incubators, so the investors that invests in this startup ecosystem. And in this position, what it means to build a relationship, it's explain the different programs that Google has, like to offer credits and support for these startups, and also to connect the startups to technical resources within Google. And meanwhile, I'm building my network. So here in Austin, we have Capital Factory, we have Antler. So those are two of the companies that I have been reaching out and working together, like to come up with events and stuff like that. Other than that, like one of the main themes of my career progression, one of the points that I want to emphasize is the need to be constantly learning and challenging yourself. So right now, I'm doing this post-graduation program with the Texas University of Texas. It's only like I think 4 or 6 months, and it's 100% online, and it's about data science for business. So how can you extract value from your data? How can you build statistic models? How can you apply those insights to business? It's really cool stuff. And to be honest, I thought it would be a very easy class, but it's turned out to be very difficult and hands-on. But thankfully, it's only one class per week. But I'm enjoying it so far. And besides all of that, you need to have a little bit of fun. So one of the reasons that I moved to Austin, I started like dabbling with music, like learning how to play the guitar and to sing. And there's a website I hope that you might know. It's called meetup.com. It's a great website. Usually I would use it to connect with other technology enthusiasts and maybe finding jobs and stuff like that. But they have like meetups, groups that are interested in multiple things. And I found a group of musicians. So I met a group of musicians last August, and we form a band, and we play, we rehearse like on weekends. So we'll see where that takes me. So that's about my current role and interests.
So you got to give us a song or a sample or something from this band.
So yeah, we're more like into heavy metal, and I would have to start screaming here. I can share the YouTube link with you afterwards if anybody's interested. I can share.
What instrument are you playing?
So I'm singing.
Oh, okay. So you definitely have to share that link. We'll be looking for that in the comments for anybody who's interested. No, that's awesome. I had a question in terms of your time spent between Google, working with the startups and then working with, incubators and working with, like you said, Capital Factory.
Mhm.
Um, how do you, I guess, separate your time, or how do you prioritize time to make sure you're be able to be fully present and engaging in each entity?
Right, that's a great question. And before you're eligible for any 20% roles, first you have to check with your manager. So make sure that your workload can accommodate. And then you talk to the person that's managing this 20% opportunity to have a clear like plan of attack. So it always goes back to the planning. You figure out how much time you're going to be invested in this opportunity. For me, it's 8 months. So by the end of the year, it should be done. And how much time you plan to spend. I have committed 2 hours of my week because that's what I felt it was available. But at the end of the day, my current day job is what pays the bills and what I'm hired for. So that's
Mhm.
always take precedence. But I have had a chance to understand my workload. I have been working for at least 6 months before I got into this. So it
Mhm.
gave me the confidence, yeah, I can take this on. And
Mhm.
that's why I separate.
Awesome. And so, did when you were working with, I guess, how did you choose Capital Factory amongst all the other, incubators and organizations like them?
Oh,
Did
well,
just the
only a
general
hell of
interest?
no, they threw at me. Actually, it was the leftovers because everybody wanted to work with San Francisco and New York, like all the cool Tesla and whatever. No, I didn't even get a chance. It's like, oh yeah, we have this. And actually, I was excited because it was one name that I knew, and I have had been to Capital Factory. So yeah, sure, let me take that. And it was a whole journey. Things were not documented or what we had done in the past. I had to figure all that out. So besides building network externally, it also helped me build a network internally within Google. Because even though we're a mother company and everything, there's still lots of silos, so
Mhm.
different groups that don't talk to each other. And in order for me to present like a Google face externally, I need to have confidence that I understand what marketing for startups is doing, what technical resource we can actually provide, and what kind of programs we can provide. So those things weren't clearly documented because, granted, it's a new program, but it has given me an opportunity to have an impact in the organization. I'm very excited about it.
Definitely. We definitely see some cool comments out there in the comment section. So thanks everybody for joining um, and participating with us today.
Uh, should I go to the next one?
Yeah.
Great. So it's a great question. Why I got involved with Autumn HQ, and actually Google has another interesting thing, like perk, is that once a year we have I don't remember the name, but they give us $100 voucher that we can distribute to multiple not-for-profit organizations that are pre-selected. Like there's a database, and we can select a few of those to donate that $100. Might not seem like much, but it's a great way to get people like with the volunteering bug and just push them. And it's what happened with me. So I was searching a bunch of organizations based on certain topics that I'm passionate about. And one of those topics is education in the technology field. So
Mm-hmm.
all fit perfectly. What I appreciate about Autumn is that I feel that I love the field of education because it allows an individual to manage their career progression because pretty much all information is freely available. You just have to go out there and invest the time and energy to learn. However, from my experience, it's hard to do it without a framework or without some guidance or without milestones. And that's what I appreciate about Autumn, that it provides this guidance, this framework that increases the chances of people of succeeding in this journey. And right now, besides this presentation, I also volunteer on Fridays where I do resume reviews. So if you have a resume and you want to go into IT, just sync with Isa, and I'm happy to help. Because throughout my journey until I got here, I probably rewrote my resume thousands of times. So I'm going to have opinions about it.
Definitely. I appreciate that. And we are always looking for other individuals in the tech space who are willing to volunteer their time. So if you're interested, you definitely, following this conversation, join AUTMHQ on our website, and there's a volunteer form you can fill out. But for our Automites on the other side, these are the kind of individuals that we want to connect you with because they have extensive experience in their area of expertise, but they also have the side of experience where you're probably going through right now, which is changing your resumes or changing um, um, just maybe if you're in a startup and you're wanting to have somebody's opinion on how, to really get your business going in the tech space at least. Or if it's just like, changing your career to go into the tech space and you want to hear some more insight about what you may require, what, things you need to do to kind of prepare yourself to be in that space. Stenio is one of our ideal volunteers with us. So we really appreciate him joining us.
And you have great candidates, like the resumes that I have reviewed so far. Like everybody had things that made it easy to give feedback.
And that's great.
So regarding my background, if you haven't noticed by now by my accent, I'm originally from Brazil, and sometimes I struggle with my R's and with my S's and I can't do that. But regarding education, I graduated in computer science in Brazil. I was never really sure that I like computers, but I knew that it paid well, so that's what I decided to go, and I'm still here. After that, it was like I got to the US in 2006, and from 2006 until I think I got my citizenship in 2019, and we can have a whole like immigration conversation because I was under H-1B visa and then green card and all of that fun times. During this period, I was trying to find myself professionally, like what I enjoy doing. because my initial jobs were more like as a software developer, and I really wanted to go more into the business side. So throughout this time, I had the opportunity to get an MBA from University of Chicago, and I got a lot of technical certificates. But in the end of the day, like at Google, the position that I have right now, fancy MBAs and stuff like that didn't really matter. What mattered was the experience that I had acquired with the technology and this ability to learn by myself. So we can go more into that when we talk about tips, but those were the key aspects.
So,
Regarding
qual universidade?
in Brazil, it's called Universidade de Londrina. Universidade Estadual de Londrina is so Brazil has states. Everybody knows the state of São Paulo and the state of Rio, which the towns of São Paulo and Rio are. But in the south of Brazil, there's a state called Paraná, and Paraná has a little town called Londrina.
Okay,
There's a university there, so it's not fancy by any stretch.
that's awesome. Yeah, I was at Unifor. So
Oh,
when I was there in Fortaleza, so Universidade Unifor,
yeah,
de Fortaleza, excuse me.
and I
So
yeah, and I guess this is relevant to the audience. I guess a lot of people are still in these university years. When I was at the university, there was a decision to be made. This university that I took, it was more about the theory and the foundations of computer science versus other universities. They're more, oh, we'll teach you how to code and how to program. I think things have evolved these days because now there are boot camps, and I think they
mhm,
feel this niche a little bit better. But back then, you had to make that choice, and in Brazil, it's 4 years.
mhm.
And do you want to get a job tomorrow, or do you want to get the foundations for life? I was like, oh, okay, I'll get the foundations. I wasn't super happy, and there was a lot of theory and calculus. But at the end of the day, I think what it helped me is that it taught me how to learn by myself
Mhm.
versus just learning how to code. So at least for me, that choice worked out well.
I was just going to ask you if you could go back and change if you did university versus maybe 4 years of university versus like a 2 years associates and then doing certificates, because that's actually a really popular path here in the States now. Would you change? I mean, I know the times are probably different, and like you said, technology evolves, programs evolve, but if you were in school right now, would you how would you make your decision?
I think I would reframe this question because whatever I answer is would only work for me, and the
Yeah,
reality.
and that's fine.
But I think when a person is faced with that decision, they should be able to articulate what's going to be the end goal of one versus what's going to be the end goal of another.
Another.
So in
Mm-hmm.
my case, I didn't have that clear in my mind. And to be honest, the one that I did, the end goal would be easier to get into a master's degree and more into the academic field.
Mm-hmm.
Like pretty much all of my classmates, they went into masters and the doctorate, they became university professors. And I graduated and I was struggling to find a job. But we can talk about my first job, how I got there. So in my case, maybe since I don't have a good academic background, like I'm lazy, I don't like to study, maybe it wasn't the best choice. But for everyone else, please be aware, like of what
Mm-hmm.
the decision you make, what's the expected end goal, like be able to articulate that, so you don't have surprises.
And that's good because there's not a wrong answer, and it was a trick question, but there's not a wrong answer. It is, like you said, based on your learning habits, based on what options you have essentially, and it's also based on, like you said, your end goal. Because not all the areas in tech require a 4 year degree. Honestly, you can get away with all of them not doing a 4 year degree, but it's gonna may take more time in other places. So it's good to know, like, what is my end all be all goal, and how can I get there? What are my options? And then map it, kind of make us work backwards, right? I definitely agree, in terms of your personal experience, and even being, moving from, one country to another, that may dictate, like you said, what your experience would be based on where your original country is requiring. So I definitely appreciate your perspective on that.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, sometimes there's too much of an emphasis in the official titles. Like, at least from my experience, whenever you find yourself like in an interview or like being interviewed by a company, What they want to know if you can deliver the goods. So it doesn't matter like all the fancy certificates, all the fancy books, or like the teachers you had, or how many years you spent. Like, can you actually code and give me like a website or do something? Or can you
Mm-hmm.
design an architecture that's going to accomplish this task?
Mm-hmm.
So be cognizant of that. Like, even if you get certificates, degree, whatever, make sure that you can deliver whatever you're supposed to deliver.
I'm actually kind of jealous of people who are like in school now because there's. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm like 30 years out of school, but even the difference between when I graduated out of college, when I started college, and versus now, the how open tech is now is so much different than how it was before. People used to, still have, this emphasis on, IT support is only for nerds and those who could code and, mine computers all day. When obviously it's not, that's not what it is to the very definition. It's much more. There are much more opportunities in tech, and since now technology has advanced to what it has, which is why I can't sit and be too jealous because time happens as well. But the way that technology has advanced and it's touched every single career path or every single degree or every single industry, there's many more options for you to participate in the tech industry than what people viewed it as it was, 2010. So I
Right.
definitely, think there's a lot more options, and because of that, you have more avenues now into moving into the tech space as well. So
Yeah, and I actually go into that point. I think it's the next slide. No, well, we
we're getting there.
it's the following one. Yeah, so what I like about my current role. So, oh, yes, that's from São Paulo. Actually, I would reverse this order. And if people don't know, this is from Teletubbies, the baby son, is because Isa asked me to put images. Like all these slides were words. I was like, no, let's make some nice slides. So
Don't
great.
tell on me now. This is your creative design.
So let's talk about these 3 points. Great platform. So I really appreciate working for Google Cloud. And yes, I'm biased because I work for them. But maybe an advice, like if you're going to work for a technology company, make sure that you're comfortable with their technology and that you're able to convincingly be confident that you
Uh-huh.
actually present to others. I really appreciate Google Cloud, especially in comparison with a few other players. Like they are a leg up in terms of networking and security and database and I. So I feel very comfortable presenting that to customers. It's an easy part of my job. I don't have to lie to make a sale. The second point is the brilliant people. So what you have heard is true. Yes, Google, there are some extraordinary people. Of course, we're all humans. Like maybe there are some people that shine a little bit less than others. But what I can agree is that 100% of the people have a great attitude. So everybody's very welcoming and willing to help, especially when I'm doing this 20%, whatever nonsense that I have to connect with different teams and people that maybe it's not their day job or responsibility to talk to me, but everybody's very open and forthcoming. And I have spoken with some very brilliant people that I consider privileged that I'm able to work with those folks. So when you're looking for a job, like try not to just get the first job, like try to do some research because that's going to help even during your interview process. You can talk about, hey, like I researched your company and I really like this aspect, or I saw this blog post that somebody wrote. I want to work with that kind of person. So have that kind of awareness. And finally, great customers. I think what I meant by that is the opportunity to work with some large accounts. For example, as I mentioned, right now I'm responsible for two large hardware manufacturers that provide interesting challenges sometimes, but also provide opportunities to work with projects that are going to have a significant impact in the market. So one example, we are working with one of these customers in a cyber resilience solution. So cyber resilience talks about preventing ransomware attacks, like when they encrypt everything in a hospital and then they ask for Bitcoin for payment. So there are technology solutions to try to prevent that scenario. And I'm partnering with this hardware manufacturer to see how we can combine the resources from Google Cloud and their hardware expertise to create some sort of weird hybrid that's going to hopefully help customers. So that kind of opportunity makes me very excited about my current role. You're mute if you're talking.
I'm on mute because it started raining here, so the skylight is kind of like ticking in the background. My apologies. All I was saying is that no, these it's important to identify like why do I like working at this job? Like why what keeps me coming back every day? Because that can be the determining factor between like it's time to go or it's time to do something else if you can't, readily identify those your top three or at least top five.
Mhm. So this goes to the point you're making about the flexibility in technology these days, that it doesn't need to be all coding. Like there are other roles that you can look for that still are touched by technology. And one example is my current role. So like I said, I work in sales. It's more of a technical side. So yes, I do have to design architectures, and I have to dig into documentation and figure out what sort of permission like their tenants needs to have, and these more complicated things. But I also have a peer, his job role is a field sale representative, so FSR, and they are the more relationship side of the sales. So they're the one that manages like the billing and the numbers and track that data. And but in order to do that, they need to have an understanding of technology as well. So they're not the person coding or digging through documentation, but they have an understanding of what Google can offer regarding machine learning or the particular NoSQL versus SQL database. So just to be aware, that's not all about coding and all about programming language. Should it be Python or Java or whatever? Like be and I think this point is when you're looking for a job, open job positions, don't just focus on software development. See what other roles there might be ancillary, because maybe the current skills that you have might translate to those roles if you just spend some time learning about certain technologies, perhaps more from a general overview. But if you can apply, combine like existing experience, that might be a good path to transition to technology.
I agree. That's where I started actually when I was working at Oracle. I was on the sales side, but boy, do you have to learn about the products. And so you have to learn about the products, and while learning about the products, you can't just know, okay, product A, product B. You have to know what it does and why it does and why it's serving that purpose. So you end up learning more about just technology in general. Obviously, learn about your competitors as well, but learning about where technology is and where it's going is a huge conversation in that side um, of sales, especially in the tech industry. So it's a really cool position to be in. And to your point, you don't have to be the software engineer. However, I do know people that have moved on from the sales or relationship management part, the account management part of everything, and the dollars and cents and all of that, and the part of the tech, but they have taken it an initiative and moved forward to being what your role is in terms of being like the middle person that's speaking the tech language for the customer, but still speaking the language for the sale. So they moved into that position. It was actually pretty cool to see that transition because you can move into more technically related roles. So I'm glad you shared that. You don't always have to start off as the software engineer in or in a company to be that. It's good to just get into the company, like the products, like the customers. Then you have that much more energy to then progress to something maybe more advanced, more technical, more specific as a niche.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes depending how open the company is for you to communicate with the different departments and the different groups, like if you have the initiative, you might start to contribute to different teams and different organizations, and you might find yourself uncovering opportunities that weren't there before.
Right.
One example is this: like I have identified that I have this passion for entrepreneurship and building networks. So I started what currently is kind of like a volunteering opportunity, but it might become something else. And worst case scenario, being exposed, like being forced, like to present Google Cloud services to this venture capital, to these startups, I'm still developing my technology skills that I can bring back to my large scale hardware manufacturers and say, hey, like those guys are doing stuff like this. Why aren't you considering this solution?
Mm-hmm.
So it make you a more robust professional.
Definitely. We have a question here from Mia. She says, how long does it take to learn the Google Cloud products in order to recommend certain ones to prospective clients?
How long does it take to learn the Google Cloud products?
Honestly,
Well,
I was learning every day. I was at Google, but it was a continuous learning. You never because they're always adding something. There's always some new update or upgrade or some various form of the product.
Yeah, I think at least you can start like a day, like you start reading about some, and maybe like let me take that back. A good approach when you have something so big and diversified as Google Cloud, because we have products for database, products for security, products for machine learning, products for whatever. And this is just Google Cloud, like not talking about the entire alphabet. So there's still analytics and whatever, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. It's like I don't even know where to start. Like I'm not going to do anything. Sometimes I feel like that. So the best approach is identify. First, I think it's good to have an overall understanding of what the platform offers. So have an understanding of what's Google Cloud, what are these different segments, what is the industries that they cover. So understand as a whole what's the mission of this big mass of things. And then once you understand this strategic vision, you go into the tactical. So what are the different products that are within database? So maybe invest, I don't know, like a week to read about the different database products. There's a lot of free labs that you can actually code and work around those products, and you can take that approach. And then you go as far as you need to. I don't think is realistic that somebody's going to go through all the products and do all the labs. I haven't done that, and I have been at Google for a year, and I work with that. My suggestion is do something in reverse. So instead of starting like learning everything blindly without a clear objective, like why do you want to learn Google Cloud? So instead of going straight there, figure out a plan, like where do you want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 3 years, at the end of this year, in the next 6 months. So start defining those goals, and they're going to be more concrete, like the closest they are, and then they start to become more fuzzy. And once you define those goals, you set down what's the plan to get there. So maybe a goal can be you start looking for job posts and you identify a few areas that you find interesting. What are the skills that those areas require? If they just say Google Cloud, like maybe do a little bit of digging and see what aspect of Google Cloud would they actually be interested. Maybe reach out to their recruiter and ask that. And then you can start creating your own plan of study, your own syllabus per se, because that's going to be like my last word of advice, like in a few slides. Like you have to take ownership of your career development and your progression. So map, establish an objective and create that plan on how to achieve. And if part of that plan is to learn Google Cloud, you yourself identify what are the areas of Google Cloud, how much time you plan to invest on that. So that would be my advice.
I like how you broke it down to show like work start off with the big picture and then get down to all the details, because that can stand true for any company, even if it's not database analytics or data excuse me related. If you want to know, okay, first of all, why is this company here? What is their big reason? What are they selling? Obviously technology would be the answer. Technology, software, hardware, however you want to dice it up. But then, okay, most likely on your team, a company's going to train you to learn what you need to know. So there's going to be enough time. I think within your first 30, 60 day, 30, 60, 90 time, your plan, there's going to be enough training worked in there to make sure you can at least speak towards something, speak towards the product, and then all the details can follow with somebody like in a position like Stenio or your team or your managers, and you can, or just any materials that they'll share with you. We actually had, if y'all remember, Tyler Rouse was one of our Horizons guests, and she was part of the team that developed content for salespeople to use for when speaking to customers. It was sales enablement. So there's a lot of resources that they pile on to you. Not pile on, that's not the right word. There's a lot of resources they make available to you in order to understand what it is that you're selling. And even in that space, like I said, it may vary based on each company in terms of how they present it to you. But the overall like understanding, the overall thought behind understanding, how much time you want to allot for yourself to really understand that area of technology, whether if you're in it technically or in the sales end or however you're involved, is really, like you said, to understand, okay, then what is the customer getting from this? Because that's what you're talking to somebody who doesn't know either. And you wanted to be able to explain it to them, like, as if you're talking to like a 5-year-old child, basically. So
Yeah,
that's
and I
that's
think
my approach.
Yeah, having that kind of awareness is also key to help when you're actually during the interview. So once again, in this interview scenario, and the person is asking you questions like, "Oh, tell me about your Google Cloud experience." You can actually talk, "Hey, I learned this because I expect to be doing this like in the next 6 months, or these
Mhm.
were the things that I have accomplished with this task." So this is going to help your interview be much easier because you're going to be confident. And this is what interviewers look like. They want a candidate that has a clear message of why they fit in this role, like they understand, so they make the interviewer's job easier as well.
And that's something you can touch on during your resume review sessions is, how you're quantifying and how you're going about, even with qualitative information, how you're going about identifying what you were able to contribute to the company. And that can be tied into when you first get the job. Okay, I want to maybe set some objectives for yourself, so that you can make that easier when it comes to quantifying and identifying what those things you accomplished, those things you have accomplished on your resume. And I know it's probably a lot to compile into your mind. It's like, okay, I got to have these objectives for myself. I got to learn, 30, 60, 90 days, how to do this to tech, how to talk about it, how to sell it. But it all kind of just happens and flows together. But at the end of the day, like Stenio was saying, aside from what the company's trying to do with their product, you know, focusing on what is just you were good at, what you did to contribute to the company, and how you were able to use that technology that you learned, or use the different platforms and languages that you were able to use, for the sale or for the actual project. You can then take those pieces out and identify what you did and how you were successful in those spaces. So it kind of comes together like that back to your experience. I did have more question for you before we move to the next slide, for me as well. Oh, sorry, Mia. Same, different question. What would be good advice for someone that is learning how to code? What did you do to interpret and understand coding language? So for coding specifically.
Hmm. I think the best advice that I can give is once again, like understand what's your end goal, like what do you want to accomplish, like learning how to code, and try to make like a long-term objective. Like I want to create this software, this application, or I want to get this particular job, and then do some research on what would be required to get there. So if you want to complete, I don't know, like I want to create a blockchain, so start mapping what are the technologies that you need to learn to go into that, and start little by little. So instead of trying to do in day one, like get this thing done, I have an example. So before joining Google, I was planning to have my own startup, like since I'm in Austin, like a website to help realtors like manage their investment property. And I'm going to build in PHP. So what are the components of this website? Like I need to have a backend and I need to have the front end. So the backend, I need to have a database. What is necessary for this database? So try to break down into little pieces. I think that would be my best advice on how to learn how to code. And also have a clear objective, like what are you trying to accomplish with that, and set some milestones to help you keep track. What did you do to interpret and understand coding languages? Um, I don't know. Like you have to start from the basics, like understand what's a variable, what are the keywords from the language, understand like the loops that are available. The good thing is once you learn one language, you'll be able to transfer that knowledge to other languages. So most of the case, like there's different paradigms like functional language or iterative. But in general, every language is going to have variables, is going to have functions or methods, and it's going to have loops. So understand those basic fundamental principles, and then you can start having a better picture of what you're trying to accomplish.
Awesome. Let me see. So thank you for the questions, everyone.
Yeah, and the final word of advice is a few points that I have made over and over. Well, first of all, in Brazil, we have a saying that if advice was good, like it wouldn't be free. So take this with a grain of salt. But at least it's what it has been working for me. Is be the driver of your career. I have heard stories. I think my grandfather, he worked for I don't know 50 years at a company, and according to my grandmother, the reason he died is because he didn't get a promotion that he was expecting. So don't be like my grandfather. Like, and I think times have changed, but make sure you're aware of the importance of being the driver of your career. Even if you have a job right now, be cognizant of how this job is contributing to your end goal of the next 5 years, where you want to be. And if it's not getting you closer there, maybe something's wrong. Like, can you start looking around what is missing? Maybe inside your own company, should you be talking to different departments? Should you have a honest conversation with your manager to help plan on how to get more responsibilities? Like, at the end of the day, you should be your greatest champion to progress in your career. The other point is about passion. So, like I said, I did computer science, even though I never really like computers, but I like making money. So it's a good field for that.
That's a driver.
Yeah. So what I have learned so far, were a few opportunities where I started doing something that I wasn't crazy about, but that they would bring me closer to my ultimate goal. And eventually, like gradually, things fall into place. So you learn to like certain things. So at least it worked for me, because sometimes you're in a position, oh, should I choose my passion or something that's more realistic? Maybe it can be both, like, or you can do the realistic time and do the passion like in your spare time. Like, try to find a compromise. It doesn't need to be all black and white. There can be some gray in your life. The importance of having a plan, so have an objective and create a plan. And also, when you're doing this exercise of objectives and plans, be honest with yourself. Like, don't set unrealistic goals. Learn to know yourself and what you truly want and how much you're truly willing to invest. It's very common for people, oh, next Monday I'll start the diet. Like, because maybe they set their diet plan in this example as something very strict. What about if you just like take gradual steps, like instead of doing something 100% different, like do little change, 25% today, 25% tomorrow, like do these gradual changes, will make it much easier to make a commitment. And at the end of the day, be kind to yourself. Like, it's very common for us to change our mind or to just lose interest about something or have second thoughts. So I think, at least for me, life has been, I struggle of combining being honest with myself, having a plan, and being kind to myself. So you have to find where's the sweet spot for you.
Definitely. And even in that space, when it comes to, I like your point about driving your career, because you can get stuck. You can become really comfortable and at the same time complaining that you're not getting paid anymore because you've gotten real comfortable in that position. I know a lot of you automites that are there watching, you already kind of taking the first turn, if you want to use all these different car analogies. But in terms of getting involved with an organization like AUTMHQ, because you have indicated that you're wanting to make a change and that you're wanting to do it now, and that you're really invested in spending your time doing that. So congratulations to you to already making the first step. Now, fast forwarding to getting the job, and going back to determine if you want to stay in that job, you want to get a promotion or go to a different position. That is basically, you got to set your goals for yourself. Um, and everything that Stenio said when it comes to this page is, these are the determining factors. How successful and happy you are in your position. So I definitely agree with all of these points. I do have, let's see, in the comments section here, I do have a question from Nuan.
Mhm.
He says, say you don't have any experience in tech, but you have a fundamental certification. How do you leverage that to get your first entry level tech position?
So, like I said before, from my experience, I think having experience can count more than having a certification. So, if you can actually deliver, that's what they're going to be checking for. Having said that, there might be job openings where maybe it's more HR led and they're just looking to fill like certain keywords, or they have certain measures, certain metrics that they need to match. Oh, we need this many number of certified people. Those types of position exist. So maybe try to identify if you have are able to ask questions to the recruiter, like see how much this particular certification can weight more than having a lack of experience. So it's about like looking at the opportunity So just go to any job posting and look at the different opportunities that you might be interested or that have that particular certification as a keyword and reach out to them, see what they say. And you can also work with an AUTMHQ, HQ, so we can help you like refine your resume. Like perhaps you do have some experience that can be transferable to that role. Like it's just a matter of articulating what you have done.
Definitely. Let's see if you have any more questions. No, I think you're getting really good sound advice, and everyone in the comment section seems to really like it. Oh, well, there was a slide before that, but I want to use this time to one to share your LinkedIn page for those who are participating, even for those who are going to join on a later date. Um, Sten, if you could put that here, I know we have our private chat. I can go ahead and copy it over to the comments. But all of this information that you're sharing in terms of progressing your career is really insightful, and it's very realistic because it's easy to say, I'm in this tech position because I studied, I went to school, and now I'm in this position. But you have a couple of variables that can resonate with people pretty well that just didn't go straight through. Like I said, first one, moving to the United States, um, that's a huge step. And there are some Automites who are in other countries that are wanting to move to the United States as well. Or there are some Automites that are in the States as well that are here, on a work visa. So they've experienced that as well. But that could throw a huge wrench in your plans, if that part's not successful. I wanted to actually touch back on that point while you were in Brazil, sorry. But what kind of work were you doing in data analytics before you went and got your master's? Were you doing any like side jobs or was it all through school?
You mean in the US? Because in Brazil, so I graduated in 2003 in computer
Yes.
science, and then I worked until 2006, like as a software
Okay.
developer, and then I came to the US.
So
Uh,
before you start so Microsoft developer was your first role.
database.
Database. Sorry, what did I say? And so I was asking, while you were in school, even in undergrad,
Mhm.
how are you going about getting experience? Was it all just through school, or was it through the role, or were you able to like join any other workshops or camps, or had any extra hobbies that kind of kept you motivated to stay on this path?
Yeah, so even though like I wasn't ever crazy about computer science, I did like computers in general and computer games. And back then we had like dial-up, like that you connected your phone and everything, and we had to connect like in the odd hours of the night. So I
Uh-huh.
started learning about browsers and like hacking things that they were cool, like that movie Hackers had just come out. So I was learning like these more general aspects of IT. And then at the university, like even though it was heavily focused on the theory, we were expected to learn by ourselves to code. Because, for example, in the third year, we had to write a compiler. It was the most nightmarish thing in my whole life. Like, and that class, 80% of the people didn't pass. It was a nightmare. But it forced us to learn by yourself. And at that time, I did have an internship, like a little coding internship with, it was Oracle, like SQL queries, whatever. So it was things that I was learning at the university, but I had to apply like in a real world scenario. And then even I never really liked databases. So when I graduated, I wanted to go to São Paulo and have like a more software development job. That once again I learned by myself. But a friend of mine was leaving this accounting company in that city, and he needed somebody to replace him. He said, Stanley, please, you have to take my job. I was like, oh, I hate database, but sure. Like, I'll go. So that's how I started. But at the end of the day, maybe one thing that I didn't mention, uh, the thing that I got the most out of this computer science degree is that they forced me to learn how to learn. So they didn't give me anything for free, like knowledge. They gave me tasks, and you go figure out. And it was a mess, but it forced me, and it was great. And to this day, I appreciate that's the thing that I took out the most out of this university experience because with technology, like you're always getting obsolete and outdated, and you always have to keep learning. So that helped me figure out for myself like what techniques I should apply to learn a new language or whatever. And it goes back to like setting your objective, drawing a plan, like breaking down into little pieces, taking little steps gradually, and having some sort of accountability, like either fake milestones or something like AUTMHQ, like something to help you move forward.
Thank you. That's really good advice, and even on your experience about being in the tech space. I think having a personal just interest in that area of tech, not because of the financial benefits or because of the titles, but having a pure interest in whatever area of tech that you're focusing on, has a huge impact on how successful and how much you're willing to, like you said, you didn't really care for school, but you did it because you really like being in this area of tech, and
Yeah,
that
and
made a difference, right?
and that's also a good advice. Like, don't feel that you need to fit a certain geek stereotype. For example, I hate Star Wars. Like those people start talking about Star Wars
Don't
nonsense.
say that on the. Hold on, wait. We're gonna bleep that out. Don't say that because you'll offend a lot of people.
Anyway, like you don't need to fit a certain stereotype to be successful in technology. Be yourself, like because especially like in modern days, like companies appreciate people that bring like diversity and these different points of view. So I'm hoping with my weirdness, like this heavy metal music or whatever I like I can bring something new to the table.
Definitely. And I think you agreed that he was going to give us a sample from his one of his latest songs from the band here.
I
No, we're gonna put that. If you have the YouTube channel, we can share that as well. Want to see Stenio live and in action, you guys. If you missed that, we're referencing a band. What's the name of your band again?
Nocturne.
Nocturne, like nocturnal,
Yes,
nocturne.
yeah, because we're evil.
Or y'all, we're all getting off of work and you can only practice at night, so therefore you're not.
I don't know, but I'm so terrible here. Let me share this.
Let's see. And then what is your stage name as well? We got another stage name.
No, it's just my name. So the other thing I have been doing, like now talking about more lighter topics, on Mondays I started going to this place called Buzzmill Coffee here in Austin, and they have an open mic on Mondays. So you just go there with a guitar and you sing. Over there, I don't do heavy metal, like I did last week. An Audio Slave song. Audio Slave is a grunge band from the 90s, and I did Dolly Parton Jolene, like I did an
Oh,
interpretation. Yeah. And yesterday I went there again, and I did well, it was a doom metal song, but I did acoustic, so it was a little bit of metal. But then I did a Valerie that Amy Winehouse sang. So yeah,
that's a really good song. I think everybody knows the words to that song. Probably the first time you hear it.
and it's very easy to play, like it's just a chord. So,
No, that is awesome, and it just shows, like you said, it person who is this? Hope you said it adds to the culture by just being yourself and just adding whatever tech and yourself to whatever organization you join. It adds to the experience for everyone. I want to make sure I want to spell your band's name right. It's Nocturn.
no, it's a K.
Okay, we got it.
But it's like we're not even a real band. Like we just like
Ah! I'm calling y'all a band. Y'all are a band, and it's worth sharing. I'll have to spend time looking at this later as well. But no, this has been a really good conversation. Um, don't worry, you guys. I'm sending it out there. There it is. But thank you so much for sharing. Your time with us today and putting giving us a real I guess live view of somebody who's gone through the space and it shows to be successful in terms of overcoming some of the barriers that you may have occurred from your transition from Brazil to the United States, from joining to the different schools, doing a lot of different certificates, certifications, different companies. Now time you're spending extra outside of work. It is all possible and it is doable, as long as you prioritize your time, and focus on what you really love to do. So we appreciate the conversation we've had today. If anybody else has any questions, I put the band in the chat, so y'all are free to go and check that out. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. If you're watching this late on a later date, you have Stenio's LinkedIn and the chat as well. So you can definitely reach out to him directly. Keep following us and on all the different social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where we put all of our events that we have streamed in the past for you to see later. But this is really going to be something that you can review later. And sorry, you guys. This is going to be something you can view later and definitely get a chance to reach out to Sten. He's very approachable and he's looking forward to hearing from all you Automites because that is the expectation. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us via email. But other than that, this is good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.